My wife Ruth lay on her side of the bed with one leg out from under the quilt and the dog at her feet like a throw rug thrown by a drunk. I could count the moth bumps on the lampshade. The grasshoppers outside were a court of appeals that never adjourned. It was all ordinary. Ordinary as bills. Ordinary as the way the ceiling fan wobbled. "You're still awake?" she said. "I'm listening," I said. "To you." "To me?" She laughed, tired. "I ain't saying nothing worth staying up for." "You always say something." "You gonna fix the back step tomorrow?" she said. "We'll both break our necks if you don't." I was thinking I'd fix it tonight with my mind. "Hoss," she said to the dog. "You hear him? He thinks he's a witch." Hoss thumped his tail. He was gray about the muzzle, and his breath was ruinous, like he'd been chewing wire. "You've been distant," Ruth said. "I could feel it. I'm just tired. It's not that." "What is it then?" "I don't know," she said. She moved closer and put a hand on my chest. "I have a feeling like something's gonna break." "It's Texas," I said. "Everything breaks. Fences, trucks, people. It's a sport." "You laugh, but I'm serious." "I know you are." She looked at me, and her eyes were patient like a minister's. "Say something true," she said. "I love you." "You can say that in your sleep." "I'm scared then," I said. "Of what?" "Of never getting ahead. Of getting old and still counting pennies for bread." "You and your pennies," she said. "We got each other." "Yeah." Something changed then. I did not know what at first. It was like the night became a bell and I was the clapper. My ears rang, and then the ringing dropped away and left nothing. I could see Ruth's mouth, but I could not hear Ruth. I could see Hoss raise his head, and his jowls trembled with an unmade bark. The fan spun like a slow windmill in a dry field, and it made no sound. The world had been moved behind glass. "Ruth?" I said. The word was a breath. It was a fish mouthing in mud. I could not hear myself. "What?" she said. Her eyes went wide. "What?" I pressed my palms to my ears, and they were useless. I shook my head hard, like you shake water out of them after a swim. I swallowed. I pounded my chest, and the bed shifted. And the dog shut up, and his nails scratched the wood, but it made no noise. I thought for a moment a bomb had gone off somewhere, and it had made me go deaf. "Ruth?" I said again, pleading. I waved my hands. I made the sign for I can't hear, like I've seen drunks do for jokes. It was not funny. She sat up and grabbed at my face. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" She touched my ears and looked at her fingers as if expecting blood. "Say something." I can't hear." "What do you mean you can't hear? Eli, what do you mean?" I turned toward the door to the hallway, and I saw that the door was gone. It was not there. In its place, something had been drawn. And it was not black like a shadow is black. It was black like depth. A shuddering zero. It hummed, but not like a sound. It hummed like a feeling in the jawbone. The air thrummed with it, though the air made no noise. "Eli," Ruth said. "What is that? What is that?" Hoss's teeth were bared, and you could see his throat vibrating with a world of bark that would not come. I felt panic, like I had been shot through the stomach. Fear is a muscle that tells you when to run, and it was telling me to run, but there was nowhere to run to. "Stay behind me," I said. From that dark swam two figures, and they were the wrong height, and they were too exact in the joints and too long in the hands. They were slick like resin left in the sun. They had no eyes, or else their eyes were everywhere. And when they moved, the space around them creased like paper. Each one held a thing like a rod. The rods were not metal, but some clear substance like a strip of ice. "Get away!" Ruth screamed. "Get away from us!" I rose and my knees were sapless. I felt small like a boy. "Please," I said to them. "Please." I did not know who I begged. The dog leapt, and whatever the rod was, it made a net of light that caught him mid-air and set him gently upon the floor as if he were a baby. He went limp and seemed to fall asleep. "Don't touch him," I said, and I knew it did not matter. "Eli?" Ruth said. "Eli?" The dark behind the figures pulsed. It was like the hole of a burned-out star. The rods made a gesture, and something caressed my skin that was no touch and all touch. I could feel my hair rise. The room thinned around us, as if the paint had been stripped off the world. The bed slid backward without moving. The walls shortened. The humming dark ate the doorway, and then it ate the air, and then it ate us. When I went, it was like going down into water and finding there is no bottom. The last thing I saw was Ruth's hand reaching for mine and missing by an inch. The last thing I felt was my own name slipping off me like a jacket. I awoke on a table, and the table was made of something that flexed in sympathy with my breathing. The walls were not walls. They were skin made of meteor light and cartilage. Veins of light ran in it like rivers under ice. The smell was antiseptic and sweet, like flowers thrown on a grave. My hearing came back as a hiss, like rain far away. Strange pipes, a music not meant for human ears. Then voices. "Hey," a woman said, urgent. Hey, you with me? Can you hear me? Look at me." Her face bent over mine, brassy hair matted with sweat, eyes that had seen too much, a scar slicing old and white through one eyebrow, the kind of face that had not been given an easy road and did not ask for one. "I can hear," I said, and it came out of me like gravel. "Where's my wife?" "We're gonna figure it out," she said. "What's your name?" "Eli." "I'm Darla," she said. "I'm an EMT. Or, I was. Don't freak out. They've got restraints and I think they soften if you slow your breathing. You gotta help me, okay? Breathe with me." "Where's Ruth?" I said. "Breathe," said another voice, male and ragged. "Don't waste your breath. It hurts." I turned. He was on another table, brown skin with tattoos up his forearms that bore the faces of saints and women alike. A man built for hauling iron. His belly had been shaved and covered in a cellophane sheet that writhed with a dim light of its own. Under the sheet were stitches, like a child had sewn up a torn football. "Hector," he said, "from Pecos." "Eli," I said, semi-present to any of it. "Ruth." "We'll find her," Darla said. "Listen to me, A seam opened in the membrane, and in came a shape like the ones from the bedroom, except this one wore something that was a garment if you were generous. It was spangled with little plates that turned dull and bright as it moved. It did not walk. It translated. Darla stiffened. Hector tried to spit, and his spit crawled along the air like syrup. The thing touched its rod to Hector's shoulder, and Hector screamed. The scream cut through me like a road flare. Then I realized I could see the scream. Threads of sound ran in the air like drawn sugar, vibrating. The thing cocked its head with a tenderness that was not human, and it gathered the threads and tucked them into a little box on its chest. "Please," I said, "I'll do anything. Where's my wife?" The thing turned to me, and for a moment we regarded each other. In its face, I felt a cool humor without mercy, a child's patience for pulling wings off flies. It touched my cheek with the rod, and every tooth in my mouth sang. "Talk to me," Darla said. "Can you hear me? Stay with us. Stay with me, Eli." "I'll be good," I said to the thing. "Please." The second one followed the first like a shadow, and it carried a case. It opened the case, and in it were bright toys. Hooks like fishbone, lenses like clear coins, needles that tapered to nothing. They set a rack by my head, and in the rack was a light, and the light pulsed, and I thought, that is an eye. They took the eye out of the rack and pressed it to my own eye, and it clicked like a camera. I felt a pressure deep behind my face. I felt something thread through the sinus and into memory like a needle into cloth. "What are you doing?" Darla yelled. "You parasites! You goddamn..." One of them drifted over to her, and it put its hand over her mouth and did not touch her, and she gagged as if pushed under water. It turned back to me and slid a sliver of cold under my nail. The nail lifted like a door. It took a piece of me, a crescent of horn and flesh, and laid it in a dish that swallowed it with light. It worked with such idle pleasure, I could not bear to look, and I could not bear not to. It opened my forearm with a line so accurate I did not feel pain. Not until I saw my own meat parted and the coiled white of tendon shining like a new rope. I felt the blood pool, and then the blood was pulled away along the surface of the table as if it was magnetized. "Stop," Hector said through his teeth. "Hey, stop with him. I'm here. Come over here, you son of a bitch. You think I scare easy?" The thing went to Hector and lifted the cellophane. Under it was a harvest. They had unspooled the length of his small intestine and wound it around a spindle. It steamed in the cold air. I saw the wet slick of his organs and the flare of his rage, and I saw they were careful with him, as if he were a violin, which they meant to keep in tune while they destroyed it. "Breathe," Darla said. "Look at me, Eli." I looked at her because if I looked at them, I would lose myself in the hole behind their faces. "Ruth," I said. "I saw them bring a woman past," Darla said. "Dark hair, small. They took her to a room with a green light. She was breathing. I saw her chest move. Do you hear me? She was breathing. I cried then. I cried, and the tears floated. The thing plucked one tear out of the air between finger and thumb and held it up to the light. I wanted to break its hand. I wanted to kiss it for not killing us outright. I wanted everything to stop. "Why?" I said to it. "Why?" It tilted its head as if listening to a distant thing, and a voice came like a conversation in the bones.
"Because you are many, and we are few,"
it said.
"because we are bored."
They did not say it with words. The words flickered out of the light itself. Darla saw it too. She nodded once. "They like to watch," she said. "They've got a schedule. They always come when that low hum starts up. You feel it?" I nodded. I could feel it. A hallway, distant and full of sorrow. They worked on me until I shook. They took a core from my hip like a farmer takes a core from a bale to check how it cured. They wound bright threads through my tongue and stuck it to a board so I could not bite down. When I thought I would die, they sealed me up again with a warm light that ran along the gash like a fly's footstep. The pain dimmed to a red star in my periphery. Later, they brought a tray, and on the tray were 6 smooth discs. In each disc, something cursorily organic moved like a fetus in a jar. "Don't eat anything," Darla said. "I wasn't planning to," I said. "They'll make you," Hector said. They did. The disc melted on my tongue, and it tasted like numbness. In the distance, a green glow rose and fell like a great sleeping heart. I prayed to nothing, and I prayed to everything. I did not think prayer had ever been answered, but I practiced anyway. "We ain't gonna die here," Darla said in the dark when the things had put us back together and retreated. "You hear me?" "I hear you." "You got a woman to get back to." "I know." "You're scared," she said. "I'm terrified." "Good," she said. "It means the animal in you's alive. We'll use that." They moved us. A membrane opened, and we slid like organs into a larger body. The corridor beyond was burrowed through some tissue smooth as tongue. The lights were not lights. They were living circles that dilated as we passed. Behind the membrane were rooms like ours. In one, a man sat cross-legged on the floor and kept time with his hand in the air, as if listening to a band only he could hear. In another, a woman laid glued to the wall, and her skin had grown little windows that opened and closed and showed things that were not in the room. She turned her head when she saw us, and a mouth opened in her shoulder and smiled. "Don't look," Darla said. "Keep your eyes on me." "I can't," I said. "Pretend you can." Hector limped. A tube trailed behind him and ran back to the wall like a leash to a post. He was pale as chalk under the brown of his skin. "You okay?" I said. He grunted. "If I say yes, will it help?" "It helps me," I said. "Then I'm fine." We came into a chamber where the ceiling arched away out of knowing, and the floor was a grid of bone. The bones flexed under my feet. In the center stood a tower of instruments, and in the instruments was a kind of music. It spoke inside your teeth like the memory of a song your mother sang when you were small. "Welcome," said the voice. It wasn't the same as before. It was lighter. It had a curl of kindness in it. The room seemed to be speaking. Or the ship, which was the same. "Who are you?" Darla said.
Do you want my true name? Or the shape of it?
Give me the shape,
Warden,
it said.
we have a game.
We're not playing, I said.
You are always playing. You have been playing since you crawled out of the mud.
What's the game? Darla said.
You move, we watch.
Fuck your game, Hector said. The walls chuckled.
Not bad,
It said.
We will set a course for you. You will try to get to the center. There is a prize there.
Ruth? I said.
Perhaps. Perhaps something else.
Darla looked at me. There was a steadiness in her that I wanted to borrow. We use this, she said in a whisper. We make them give us the corridors. I saw the pods earlier. Small boats inside of bigger fish. How do we get them to open the doors? I whispered. She looked up into the meat of the ceiling like I could hear her, and she said, out loud, Warden, if we play, we want tools.
What tools?
The voice was coy. Our own bodies, she said. You took pieces. Give us back what we need. We need saline. We need something sharp. We need a sealant in case we get cut.
You ask for much,
the ship said. You ask for us, she said. Fair's fair. A hatch opened with a little sigh. A slab slid out like a tongue. On it, a clear blade, a pouch of fluid hung from a spine of plastic, and a roll of something like synth skin that smelled like cedar.
You get one cycle,
the warden said.
When the red hum lowers, you will begin. Do not touch the walls when they ripple. If you do, they will taste you, and we will have to take you back. The prize is in the heart of the ship. Go.
Ruth, I said again. I kept saying it like a spell. We have to go, Darla said. We can't wait. Hey, Hector said to the air. If we win, we all go. All four. Hear me? His voice cracked. He put his hand to his stomach. Me, the man, his woman, and the mouthy blonde.
Noted,
the warden said.
I like mouthy. Begin.
The red hum fell in the bones of my jaw, and the lights elongated like eyes narrowed. The far wall peeled away, and there was a hallway beyond with a floor like the surface of a lake under wind. Darla took the blade. She tucked it under the sleeve of her ripped shirt. She handed me the pouch. Hey, if they throw that net on us again, she whispered, I think we can short it. That stuff looked like it sucked current. Salt carries electricity. You track? I track. Hey, Hector said. He uncoiled the tube from his belly and tied it off in a knot with a face like sin. He breathed in through his nose and let it out slow. Let's play. We ran. The first corridor went up at a gentle angle and then not gentle. I felt the gravity go sideways, and I put a hand to the wall and jerked it back, because the wall was slick with some secret that wanted me. Above us and below us, other corridors crossed like capillaries. The ship was a living city. We passed a window, and outside was a sky as black as ever, and a planet so close and huge, it was like a bruise laid over everything. Is that Earth? I said, breathless. No, Darla said. Wrong color. Wrong white. Those storms aren't ours. A shape came out of a side corridor to our left, and I lashed out with the pouch. And it might have been reflex or hope, but the net came and the net hit the saline and went mad and popped like a wet fire. Hector laughed. "Get some," he said, and then he swayed and gripped the rail. He spit up blood, and the blood lifted from his lip and ran along the air toward the wall like a moth to a lamp. We moved through a room where bodies hung like fruit. There were human ones and not human ones. There was a cow with its skull removed, and its brain encased in a clear bell. A deer standing like a carcass, frozen with snow on its muzzle. And there was no snow here. A child-sized thing with feathers. I shut my mind on it like a door. I could not afford pity wider than the three of us and the woman I loved. "Stop," Darla said. She put her ear to a seam in the floor. "Do you hear that? That droning? That's the heart room. It's close, but there's a lock." She reached inside her shirt and pulled out a little chip she'd palmed earlier, white as a flake of bone. I hadn't seen her take it. "They use this shit to key doors," she said. "They keep a lot of the keys in their own bodies. Calcium-based. I told you I was an EMT. The body's a museum of cheap tricks. You can copy any of them if you're mean enough." "How'd you get it?" I asked nice, she said, and I saw a smear of alien fluid under her nails. She slid the bone chip into a slit, and the slit drank it. The lock opened like a sigh through the flesh of the ship. We stepped through and into somewhere colder. It was a gallery. It was a cathedral. It was a long room with a spine down the middle, and from that spine hung pods the size of bathtubs, and in each pod something slept or pretended to sleep. The green light I had seen in a dream pulsed through the floor. The air smelled like embalming fluid and cut grass. I saw her at once. Ruth, suspended like an angel on a stained glass window, tubes in her arms and a crown of needlework on her head that was now bald. "Ruth," I said, and my voice shivered. I put a hand on the clear lid and it burned cold. "Ruth, honey, wake up. It's me." Her eyelids fluttered. She looked at me without seeing. She mouthed something. Water, I thought. And I opened the pod and my finger stuck to it, and the static left from me to her, and she shuddered. Her eyes focused. "Eli?" she said. "I got you," I said. "I got you. Can you sit?" "I can't feel my legs," she said. And there it was, the thing you hope not to hear. I swallowed it. Darla was at the console like an organist in a ruined church. "We have to move," she said. "They're not going to let us take the prize without a price. We need the pods. You see the launch chutes? Those holes that look like a throat? They're escape boats. 4 seats if we stack." "They'll chase after us," Hector said. "We'll be fast then. I've never lost a patient on a rig in my life. I am not starting with a goddamn spaceship." An alarm went off, but there was no sound. The room changed color like a cut of meat going bad. The warden sighed in the metal.
"Ah," it said. "Clever mammals."
"Open the chute," Darla said to it, "or we tear the heart out of your toy."
"You are not capable,"
the warden said. Hector staggered to a column that ran like a tree root from floor to ceiling. He wound both arms around it and set his feet. "Watch me," he said, and he pulled. The skin of the column stretched and tore. Light leaked. The room convulsed. A siren took shape in nothing and filled everything. "I can do a lot of damage for a dying man," Hector said. He bared his teeth. "Open," Darla said, knife in hand, and the knife found a seam, and she set it like a wedge and pried. "Open, you listening bastard!" The floor softened. A mouth yawned into it. Cold air rose. The stars flickered in the distance. I scooped Ruth up, and she folded into me like a shirt pulled from a line. "You're shaking," she said. "I'm scared," I said. "Me too." We moved. We slid the pod into the mouth and climbed in. The walls molded around us like we were pills in a blister pack. Hector collapsed into the last seat, and his hand clamped on my wrist. "On me," he said. "Don't let me go." "I won't," I said. Darla slapped the controls with a merciless efficiency. "This thing runs on coded gestures," she said. "That's all it is. Geometry. Even God's just geometry."
"Open the throat,"
the warden said softly.
"Let it swallow you. Let it spit you back where we found you, small heroes."
"Go to hell," Darla said. "That's the plan," said Hector. We fell. The pod was a seed through the veins of something larger and furious. The tube that carried us had muscular rings in it, and each ring squeezed us like toothpaste. The G-forces pressed me into the shape of whoever I used to be. Ruth's breath was in my ear, and it was fast and shallow. "Talk to me," she said, as if the words were stitches that would hold us in one piece. "I'm right here." "What happened?" she said. "My legs, Eli. I can't." "We got you," Darla said. "We're gonna fix what we can damn fix, and we're gonna live with what we can't. Breathe. 1, 2, in, out." Hector coughed. Something wet and sweet. I didn't look. "When we land, we bury this thing," he said. "We will," I said. In the narrowing of the tube, a shape presented itself, and it was not the warden. It was one of the cold ones, a sentinel, its face slick with its own version of fear, which was not like our own. It rose out of a port and set its rod on the port, and you could hear the electronics whine like flies. The wall to my left peeled back, and there was a void. The planet rolled slow. Its light was an old light, bread baked by a dead furnace. "Hold her. Eli, hold her," said Darla. "I am." Hector sat up like a resurrection, and he lunged for the sentinel through the shining membrane, and his fist sank to the wrist in the thing's throat. He squeezed. A luminous liquid began to fall. It smelled like mint and dead fish. The sentinel flailed, and its rod spun and struck him in the ribs, and he shouted and did not let go of its neck. "I had a brother once," he said conversationally, grinning like a skull. "He drowned in a drilling mud pit behind a yard in Loving County. Nobody came for him. I ain't letting this all end with you touching me." He snapped something in it that sounded like brittle clay. The sentinel went slack. The pod rocked. The tube or throat closed around us in spasms. Darla jammed the blade into the seam on the controls and opened new options like veins. She made patterns in the air with her hands. "Come on," she said to the hardware. Ruth turned her face into my neck, and I felt her tears hot and unashamed. thought I was alone, she said. Never, I said. Not once. The pod fell free. The tube spat us. We slipped along a skin of light that ran outside the ship like oil on water. Many little pods fell then, as if the ship was shedding fleas shaken loose by a dog's teeth. Some lit their brakes and some did not. Those that didn't tumbled into the black like bad thoughts. Gone. I think I'm gonna pass out, Hector said, good-natured. He did. Keep him awake, Darla said. Hector, I said, slapping his face gently. Hector!
If I don't wake up,
he said without opening his eyes,
say something decent at my funeral.
I don't do decent.
Lie then.
The earth showed itself like a hurt you forgot you had. The curve of it was the shape of relief and terror in equal measure. The clouds matted the gulf. Texas lay under there, flat and infinite, the color of bones in dust. The pod heated. The light through the windshield went from white to red to a color I can't name. The air outside screeched with our entry, like a world being given birth to itself. Angle, Darla muttered. We need an angle. You done this before? Drove a bus through a wildfire once, she said. How different can it be? We hit a layer like plates slapped together, and the pod juddered and rattled. Something outside tore off and went bright and was gone. Ruth's hand found mine and seized it. If we live, she said, I want you to build that stupid step. I will, I said. Promise me. Promise. The pod nosed toward the place that stole us like a salmon nosed the river. We came down through the clouds, through a night that looked familiar, a scatter of small towns like dropped embers. The highway, a living snake with eyes down its length. Then the scrub and the caliche, and the broken fences and the creek bed that only runs in the spring. We screamed between two cottonwoods and tore the top off one. And the pod smacked dirt and skipped once and a second time. A flat pebble skimming a pond. And then lodged itself in a wash where the mesquite grows too thick even for the goats. Silence. The good kind. I'm still here, Darla said, surprised to find it true. It was night, and the night had our stars. The insects took up their old labor as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed, and I could feel it in the pressure of the air. The sky was wrong by a hair, as if some hand had put the curtain back after peeking and left it crooked. We need to move, Darla said. We need to get out, and we need a hole, and we need to bury this bitch before the county gets curious. Hector? I said. He did not answer. Hector. I shook him. I put 2 fingers to his neck, and there was a pulse that came and went, and then decided. He opened his eyes. He smiled. You did good, I said.
I always was best for heavy lifting,
he said. He tried to stand, and Darla caught him. There you go, she said. There you go. We pulled Ruth into the grass, and we lay there for a moment like kids who have stolen something. I looked up and saw our house in the distance. I said home without saying it. The lights leaned east as if the word had weight. Hoss barked. And this time, the sound of him hit me like a hammer I'd forgotten all my life, and now came back with interest. I cried again. There is no shame in a man's tears. It is simply sweat coming out of a deeper place.
We're home,
Ruth said.
we're home.
For now, Darla said. The pod's skin was cooling and making noises like a kettle. We tore brush and piled it. We dragged old boards from the shed and threw them over. We shoveled dirt as if we meant to bury a god. Our hands blistered and bled. We worked by moonlight and by the glow of a world that did not care. When the shape of it had gone under the earth like a fox, we stopped and listened, and heard nothing but the common darkness of this place. A train in the distance, a coyote, the wind, which is just empty miles making a sound against things. We should go inside, I said. In a bit, said Darla. She squatted by Hector and looked at his belly. This is gonna get bad if we don't flush it. She looked up at me. This is your home, right? Well, I'll need to use your kitchen. Boil everything that holds water. Okay, I said. And we ain't going to a hospital. I figured. We're gonna be our own hospital. All right. Ruth reached for my hand and held it. Eli, she said. I'm here. She closed her eyes. We carried them inside. Haas whined and put his head on Ruth's lap, and Ruth smiled and touched his ear. He looked at her legs, and he looked at me, and whatever a dog believes in, he did it then. Faith has a smell to it, and it was in the room. Get the bleach, Darla said. Get the pressure cooker. Get a field kit if you have one. I moved like a man in a flood, grabbing whatever floated. I burned towels in the oven to get them sterile or close. Darla washed her hands in bleach and whiskey, and then she opened Hector along the pale railroad track of stitches and did God's work with a conscience like iron. He hissed and gutted out his curses, and she talked to him soft as you talk to a spooked colt. There you go. You're home. Don't fight me. Breathe. Breathe. She reached into him, and the sound was a sound that would stay in me forever. Blood slicked her forearms. She laughed once at some private, sick joke. You ever see Diesel in a ditch spread like this? She said. That's you. Goddamn miracle you're still renting space in that body.
What's funny is,
Hector said, white-lipped and bright-eyed.
I think I left part of me up there.
You left so much of you down here, there ain't room for more, she said. Now shut up. She packed whatever was meant to be packed back where it was owed, and she sealed him with duct tape and sutures like ladder rungs. You'll scar, she said.
Chicks dig it,
he said. He slept. I pushed Ruth in the old recliner and covered her legs. She looked small. She watched me with the same look she wore when I brought home baby chicks one year in April, and we sealed their heat under a red lamp. Wonder and fragility and pride. You should have left me, she said. I slowed you down. Don't say that. I slow you, and I always have. If you say that again, I'm going to argue with you until the sun burns out. You'll get bored of me. I won't. There's a hole in me that matches your shape exactly. I'd rattle without you. She smiled then, and the smile was weak, but it was the same one she had on when she said yes in a courthouse that cost less than the truck I drove. We ate what there was. We wrapped Hector in blankets like a child. I went outside and stood and listened for something I could not name. The sky felt like it was peering back. I had the sudden sense that what we had carried out, we had not entirely escaped. That some thought of them or parts of them had seeded in us. My hip ached where they'd cored me. My tongue felt odd where they'd stitched the thread of light. "Darla," I said, coming in, "do you feel weird?" She laughed. "Define weird." "Like you got something planted in you." "I feel tired," she said. She took a sip of the coffee that had burned for an hour. "And I feel mean. That's normal." Ruth shivered. "It's cold," she said, even though the house was not. "Need a blanket?" I said. "No, like, I feel cold on the inside." I went to her and I felt the tremor in her bones. It was not fear. It was a rhythm. Something that had timing. Her eyes found mine. "Eli?" she said. "What?" "Put your ear on my chest." I did. I heard her heart and something under it, like a clock under a floorboard. A second beat. Faint. I counted. It did not match her rhythm. It lay beside it. Humored it. "They left a mark," Darla said. Her voice was equal parts awe and disgust. "Shit. They put something in us." "For what?" I said. "To keep time. To track us. To know when to come back." Haas growled then, and a hair went up along his ridge. He stared at the window. The kitchen radio sat cold on the counter, and it clicked on all by itself and whispered static. In the static, a voice spoke, and it was not English and not language. It was geometry again, and the ice in me cracked a little. "God damn," I said. "Hey," Darla said, gentle. "We knew. We didn't say it, but we knew." "What if they come back?" Ruth said. "What if they put me back where they had me? Eli, I can't. I can't." "They won't," I said. "We'll be ready." "He wasn't ready last time." "No," I said. "But we were brave. That counts as the next best thing." We worked then. We took a hacksaw and cut the back step flush, and set new wood, and the hammer was loud and holy. We carried stones and boarded windows. We pulled the pot out of the ground enough to peel its skin, and take the thing in its spine that felt like a beeper, and then we crushed it under a sledgehammer until it turned to grit. We wore gloves. We washed with bleach. The sun came up pale, as if ashamed. The neighbors came by. "You hear that noise last night?" Earl asked. "Sounded like the world was on fire." "Didn't hear nothing," I said. He looked at me like a man considering a riddle. He was gonna make a joke. He didn't. He looked off across the pasture. "Well," he said, "I got a fence to check." In the bedroom where all this started, the door sat in its frame like any door. I ran my hand along the panels and felt the indentations my father's ring had made decades ago. Ruth slept with her mouth open, worn out. I stood watch. The dog lay at my feet and snored. Night came and I thought I would not sleep, but I did. In my dream, I was in the ship, and the warden spoke to me.
You played well.
It said.
Everyone is only ever playing.
You'll come back, I said.
Of course.
It said, like that was the point of everything. I woke. The stars looked like they had been thrown back where they belonged by a tired god. The frogs in the creek sang. I touched Ruth's hair.
Eli?
She said in her sleep, and then awake.
I can't feel...
I know, I said.
We'll make it. You scared?
Yes.
Stay scared,
she said.
I kept you alive.
In the morning, I rolled up my sleeve and looked at the scar on my forearm. It made a shape like a line someone might follow on a map. I pressed it and felt a buzz. It was small and constant, a reminder, like grief or love. I went outside and the sky was wide and indifferent, and Texas was what it had always been. I could hear the hum of power lines and the low talk of cattle and the wind in the mesquite. I listened for the other hum. It was not there. Not that I could hear, which did not mean it wasn't. We made breakfast. Darla slept on the couch with a knife in her hand. Hector snored in counterpoint. Ruth wheeled in and watched the eggs and smiled. Build me a ramp, she said. I'll build you a ramp and a railing and a porch big enough for a square dance. You don't dance, she said. Then I'll learn. We were back. We were not back. We were made into a thing not like before. The world had taken us out and put us in, and we did not fit exactly. But we fit enough. For a time that is never promised. We were here. And if that dark hum returned and the door again became a hole, I would stand and I would tell it, if you want us so bad, you come take us from our place. You come into my house. Bring whatever rods you want. I will be afraid. I will be a man. Ruth reached for me and I took her hand. Haas sighed. The wind leaned at the eaves. Far off on the road, a truck sounded off in the heat. Somewhere, a cow bellowed. The day opened, and it was ours. And the fear inside it did not zero out its worth. The fear sharpened it. The world is not kind. It does not have to be. It is wide. We were small in it, and also we were huge. Because we had each other, and a pair of hands, and the understanding that nothing here is guaranteed, and that every door is a question, and we would live in the answering. Hey everybody, that's it for today's story. This one was written by Solar DRX PP1 on Reddit. I'll include a link to their work in the description down below. Hope you all will check out the author's work and give them a follow on Reddit if you can. This story, obviously, is an alien abduction story. This is a topic I don't really cover too much on the channel, but I do find really interesting. There's another story from this author as well, which is a UFO abduction story. I'll include a link to that one at the very end of the video in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, in case you want to check that one out. I actually have my own weird kind of UFO sighting story from my own life that's, I don't really talk about too much, but I'll share it for you guys here for anybody who's interested. I was a teenager when this happened, and we were out doing stuff we weren't really supposed to be doing. Late at night, it was probably 2, 3 in the morning. We were out hanging out in a farmer's field. We had a car, and we were just hanging out there, again, doing stuff we weren't supposed to be doing, but not causing any damage or anything like that, just hanging out. And I remember looking up and seeing this light go up into the sky, and it just shot straight up, and it started going back and forth, hovering back and forth, left and right, left and right. After a few seconds of that, I pointed it out to everybody, and everybody looked, and we all saw it. And all of a sudden, it just blinked over us. I can't really explain it much better than that, other than that it was like a lightning bolt. It just flew over us so fast, it was like a flash. Much faster than anything I've ever seen, much faster than anything that exists on Earth. So, I didn't get abducted. I didn't, no glowing lights started pulling me up in a tractor beam or anything like that. But that's my little UFO story. I still remember that very clearly from that night, and everybody else who was with me saw it as well. So, whatever that was, I'll leave you to decide what that might have been, but that's my little UFO story. I also actually wrote a couple nonfiction UFO stories for a podcast, which is run by Dr. No Sleep, called They're Out There. A couple years back, I used to do a lot more commission writing, and I did some true crime stories and a lot of fictional horror and SCP stories for Dr. No Sleep and his associated channels. The UFO stories I wrote were similar to the true crime stories I wrote, in the sense that I had to do some research for them and actually delve quite a bit into some non-fictional detail. So I thought it was really interesting to write those and actually go through the research. I covered the Pentagon UFO files from a few years back and the real Men in Black for those story commissions. I thought it was really interesting to hear these first-person accounts of UFO encounters, especially from really credible witnesses like fighter jet pilots who witnessed some of these events, the Tic Tac floating over the water, which is like this gigantic ship that one of these pilots saw. Actually, a couple of the pilots saw. On the other hand, I also thought it was really interesting to look at the other side of things and look at the skeptics' point of view. And I delved really deep into some different skeptics' YouTube channels and different UFO skeptics to see what they had to say about these things and what their explanations was. And I learned a lot. It was a lot of work, but it was really fun writing those stories. I learned how RF video isn't the same as regular video, and how a lot of the UFO footage we see that's RF is not the same as regular video. So you can get these kind of flares and these different visual artifacts on RF as opposed to regular video. So I don't have a firm take on whether those UFO, the Pentagon file UFO videos are, whether they're real aliens or not, even to this day. I thought both sides were pretty convincing. There's also the possibility it could be some advanced technology from the U.S. or from some other military. So we really don't know what these things are, but it was really interesting to do some research on it and to kind of explore the possibilities. I'm personally of the belief that there probably is life out there in the universe somewhere, and it's just a matter of making contact. And there's a lot of reasons why we might not have made contact yet, like the universal speed limit of the speed of light, and all these different things that make it very difficult to get in contact with other species. But I think we're at a really cool time in human history right now, where we actually have probes going to other planets to take samples, and maybe microscopic life might exist on Mars or different places, and we might potentially find out very soon that we're not alone in the universe and that there is other life, and it might just be single-celled organisms, but it may be out there, and we might be able to find that out really, really soon. If you want to check out any of those true crime or UFO stories I've written, you can check them out on the podcast Crime Hub, where the true crime stories are, and They're Out There, which is where the alien stories are. I wrote the Pentagon file story for They're Out There, and the true crime stories are about Elizabeth Wetlaufer and Bruce McArthur, the Toronto Village serial killer. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff and you want to check out some of my nonfiction writing, I'd recommend them. I'm definitely proud of those stories. I think they turned out really well. In other news, I have several stories in the works that I'm currently writing, including a new Hollow's End Sheriff story, which will be over an hour long once it's done. There's some collaborations and other stuff in the pipeline, so stay tuned for more information about all that. I'll let you guys know when stuff is coming soon. Hope you're all having a good summer. I can't believe it's almost over. It's almost the end of August. Hopefully you're all making the most of it. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's purchased the new Hollow's End book, Welcome to Hollow's End, and everyone who's left a review on Amazon or on Goodreads. It really helps out a lot. Thank you also to everyone who's purchased the new audiobook I narrated as well, Terrors of the Forest. I featured a few sneak previews on the channel of those stories from Terrors of the Forest, but I'll leave the rest for people to explore on their own in the audiobook. Again, if you can leave an honest review on Amazon, it really helps out a lot. That's about it for me today. Hope you all enjoyed these 2 longer stories so far this week. I'll be back on Friday with another one, which will probably be more in the half-hour range. And I'll be back on Monday as well after that with another story for you guys. All right, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your week.